Good morning, afternoon, or evening, ladies and gentlemen, all in crypto here, and welcome back, guys, for another daily cryptocurrency market update. I am going to have to keep this one short and sweet as I have got people I'm interviewing for the remainder of the day, so we're going to try and do that, but we've got a lot of things to share as always. We're going to be looking at some Sam Bankman-Fried news as he's had charges dropped against him. This is nothing short of an injustice and criminal. We're going to be starting things off with a tweet from Michael Burry. Then we're going to be looking at some comments made from Gary Gensler recently, I believe yesterday, in light of Ripple and the kind of court ruling. And then we're going to look at some sort of charting stuff, Bitcoin, FX, really, because yesterday we had the Bank of the ECB, the European Central Bank, actually up interest rates by 25 basis points and give a little bit of a kind of dovish rhetoric. We've also got some things going on with the Bank of Japan, which of course saw the dollar do very well yesterday and kind of almost invalidate what we were looking at. You know, it's kind of taken what we thought was going to be resistance. It's ran into an EMA though, so we'll see how it acts. And there's a lot of things going on with the FX market. And I think actually one reason why Jerome Powell, despite inflationary data and a number of other things, is continuing to or did a 25 basis point hike on Wednesday is because of this kind of FX battle and making sure that the dollar is bolstered against these other currencies. We also had GDP for the US for Q2, and it actually beat expectations. Very different from the kind of bearish rhetoric that we hear. Remember, guys, and this is something that is going to save you a lot of money, time, heartache, and confusion. The charts are king. The fundamentals and the kind of news flow is secondary. And the news flow will always be wrong. It's why, for example, we had good earnings for Microsoft and it sold off because it's already been priced in. It's why, for example, we saw a 25 basis point, which should have seen the dollar be strong, and actually it sold off. These things are priced in, and actually insiders, people that are privy to markets will know this, and retail is typically the recipients of last resort. So let's get into it all, guys. Let's start off with a tweet from Michael Burry. Maybe it's time for a market correction, question mark. Now, Michael Burry made one of the best calls of all time, obviously in 2008. There's a movie made of him called The Big Short. He is the guy that called BS on the housing market, and ultimately was very right. Now, what the hell is he talking about? Well, the stock market has been doing sensationally well. We will get into Bitcoin. You've got, for example, Microsoft hit our target perfectly and then sold off. This is an inverse head and shoulders that we had for Microsoft. You also ultimately got the break. You saw that on a nice volume. Volume can be skewed often because of algorithms, because of, often institutions will hide themselves in relation to volume, so it's not so obvious for people like me to kind of spot them. But the stock market's been doing very well. We've almost laughed at the bears really over the past, and I hate to say that because some people are going to start angrily typing, but just look at what the chart is showing you here. You can see, for example, that's not a bearish environment, regardless of what the fundamentals tell you. We were actually looking at Meta, which is up 200+% since really the start of the year. So what's he talking about? Well, the stock market's had an amazing run. We still expect it to go higher, but there may be a correction in the short term. Certainly as you're running into really largely where a lot of this started on many charts. So this is something to bear in mind. How crypto fares is going to be interesting. I'd argue that crypto hasn't really been kind of appreciating in the same manner recently. If you look at where this is, you're definitely running into resistance levels here. Apple, who knows with Apple? Apple could continue to go a lot higher. You're in price discovery now, just like all those smart Alex deciding that they were going to short Nevada based on... It's always a bad idea to call something overvalued or undervalued because you are not the decider of that, right? You are talking about a stock market that trades on 20, 30, 40 times earnings. We've gone past the point of overvalued and undervalued. Markets are moved by participants. You trying to short Nevada got you absolutely destroyed because you were listening to narrative and you were saying, oh, it's done an amazing run, it's got to pull back. That's how you get wrecked as somebody trying to short the market. But Michael Burry could very much be right in regards to where we're running up to. Coinbase is a great start. This is a $200 stock plus. You do have the futures market a little bit up today. Futures got a bit of a slap in the face yesterday. So did gold, disappointingly. Gold got a real hit yesterday, and that was on the back end of this for the dollar. Dollar did very, very well. And we were expecting it to have a little bit more. We don't want it on reg. We also want it on auto. Resistance at this level here. It initially sold off and then got a huge spike. That was on the back end after jumping to a little bit of macro. That was on the back end of US GDP. coming out better than expected. It was expected at 1.8. It came out 2.4. Again, the bearish rhetoric. And also the ECB doing a 25 basis point rate hike, not 50, and hinting that we're near the end, inflation expectations to fall and financial conditions weigh on demand, lending channels, all stuff the ECB said last time, but it reads differently given recent bleak data for top euro and easy yields. So we saw yields spike as well. We also had a little bit of news from the Bank of Japan. Remember, the Dixie is comprised of 40+% euro, and the pounds in there, a load of other things. So that's really the story there. Of course, this weighed on the cryptocurrency market's shoulders. The stock market leads Bitcoin, and Bitcoin tends to follow. And we were literally some of the first people to highlight this stuff. You can see this. This, of course, is the Nasdaq 100. So you do have periods actually where, look, if you look at this pullback and this kind of chop period, Bitcoin was doing very well on the back end of it. And I actually liken, and I'm going to do this, this period here to where we are here. And I think it's going to result in the same factor. This is a stage 2 breakout we've now got for Bitcoin. You've taken your base out, which is your stage 1. You're into your stage 2. Come and learn about that. We're in the Discord. Ultimately, we expect more upside. But back to the news. So I think Michael Burry could have a little bit to go on there. Again, with Michael Burry having made some amazing calls, he's also made some absolutely horrific ones. Plentiful horrific calls, actually. Just like all, including myself, market analyzers. We don't get everything right. And ultimately, the kind of metric that we can judge is who makes money and who doesn't. And we are going to start publishing. From an investment point of view, the proof's in the pudding and we can really prove what we do. But we're also going to start proving publishing a trading P&L, maybe quarterly or annually, to kind of separate us. Because if you go to Twitter, you go to YouTube, and you talk about all these great people that are doing all the hundreds of thousands of followers, you never see a P&L, and you never really see a trade that isn't like 20, 30x leverage. So I think it's just complete gambling. I think you can't possibly risk manage a 20, 30x leverage trade unless you're just, spinning the wheel and putting a tenner on it or whatever it is. Enough of that. Breaking, the Department of Justice has dropped the campaign finance charges against crypto scammer Sam Bankman-Fried. Wow. Get close with Washington Uniparty and they will protect you every time. Shortly after the collapse of FTX last December, Bankman-Fried was charged with campaign finance violations as well as fraud. Now Sam Bankman-Fried is getting away with it. This is not justice. This is disgusting.
Why make the contacts?
This is absolutely disgusting. News. Sam Bankman-Fried donated $93 million in stolen customer funds to US politicians, and the US government dropped criminal charges campaign for finance. You can't make this up. It's absolutely despicable, disgusting. And isn't it funny how you have individuals out there, and I don't want to go down this dark, deep rabbit hole that you guys know I'm on the right side of. I don't want to go down the rabbit hole of how many people do we see in jail for long stints that have done so much less than this, and actually you have the likes of Sam Bankman-Fried, a complete criminal, not just negligence. I actually believe he was a Trojan horse that was set up. He was rubbing shoulders with the Clintons, the Bushes. I mean, it's just insanity. Last thing I really want to do is sort of move on to Gensler's recent comments. I found these interesting. Regulations are part of our crypto story and are going to be actually what I think leads the crypto market to massive success. But there's going to be turbulence within that. It's a part of any emerging technology. It needs to get regulated, it needs to get figured out. And people said, oh, it doesn't need to get regulated. Well, in the US, it does, right? Okay, I understand globally it doesn't, but the US is the largest market, and you can see the reaction to the crypto market and markets generally when the US moves. So let's play this, and then we'll wrap up with a few thoughts on Bitcoin, maybe looking ahead for the day. And I'll love and leave you on that note.
A different topic, which has gotten a lot of attention lately, crypto. Specifically, a ruling that was made in the Ripple case that XRP is only a security when sold to institutional investors, not so with retail investors. I know you've previously said you were disappointed by that ruling. The SEC has also said that it intends to seek further review. So does that mean you are going to appeal it? Can you elaborate on your thoughts around that ruling?
Kaylee, great question, but the commission, I'm one of 5 commissioners. Mm-hmm. The commission has not acted on that, and if the staff makes a recommendation, we'll have a discussion of it, and we'll take it up then, but I don't really have anything more for you for that.
In the meantime, as we wait for this, What does it mean for your efforts around crypto, for your efforts to try to protect the consumer in these areas? Does it complicate it?
Look, this field of crypto investing, a lot of investors should be aware it's not only a highly speculative asset class, it's also one that they currently should not assume that they're getting the protections of the securities laws, even though the securities laws apply to many of those tokens, without prejudging any one. But you as investors are not getting the full, fair, and truthful disclosure. And the platforms, the intermediaries, are doing things that we would never in a day allow or think the New York Stock Exchange or NASDAQ would do. The platforms often are commingling and trading against you and have market makers that are on the other side of your trades. And we don't allow that in the rest of our securities markets. And the securities laws are there to protect you. And that's right now, this is a field rife with fraud, rife with hucksters. And there are good faith actors as well, but there are far too many that aren't.
Do you know what? I don't like Gensler, but I think he's got a point with what he said at the last part. This space is absolutely... And listen, I have been victim of so many... I don't want to say victim because that's not the right terminology, but I've invested in so many projects that have literally turned out to be scams over my long career in the crypto space. I'm not afraid to admit it. Luckily, we've avoided a lot of them. I think the last one that I put a bit of money into, not a lot, was Ardana. That wasn't really a scam, but they kind of rugged. And we get better and better at it. But there are so many bad actors in this space. And actually, what he says about exchanges trading against their customers, and I'm not talking necessarily about Binance or Coinbase, but perhaps some of them at some point, I think he's got a bit of a point. And I think it's from an exchange point of view, there needs to be some sort of and maybe he's only doing this so that he can, and using that as an excuse so that he can get the JP Morgans, BlackRock, so on and so forth to take over that role and make all the money from it. But there does have to be some sort of consumer protection there from a centralized exchange business point of view, not from a regulating these individual cryptos. And I think that's really what he's going to go after now, rather than the individual cryptos that we saw with the XRP's case can be proven to not be securities. So, on that note, guys, I'm going to love and leave you. If you've enjoyed this content, like is greatly appreciated, so is a comment. Just a few comments, actually, before I leave on Bitcoin. Things look good. We are long and strong. We've been long and strong since the start of the year, and we continue to do so. And ultimately, you are now, for Bitcoin, in a bull market, but for altcoins, actually very, very close to it. Some altcoins are already in it. We see the same thing with small cap stocks. You're basically going to follow the blueprint that Microsoft and other such things have set out for you. And now is the time to be enthusiastic, to enjoy. We are still very much chopping around, which is annoying. However, again, and we've been spot on with saying that this was actually how this range might end in regards to this little stab down, almost putting like a double bottom, and then you see that upside. And that could come on the back end of PCE that's today, which was another inflationary data that's set to come out pretty weak to the downside in terms of inflation coming down. On that note, I'm going to love and leave you. Check out the Patreon, guys. Also, a like and a comment is appreciated. And a massive thank you to each and every one of you supporting me day in, day out. It really does mean the world to me. You guys are why this channel is here, and you mean the world to me. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. See you in the next one.